the stop.
My goodness, what a save!
What a save! What a glove save there by...
What a stop! Looked like a sure goal.
You talk about an A+ save and maybe the save of the night.
Welcome to the Goalie Science Podcast, the podcast where we try to bridge the gap between goaltending science and peak performance. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Phillips, a physical therapist and goalie performance specialist. I'm joined as always by Dr. Ben Surnick and goalie coach Derek Fujan. Whether you're at home, at the rink, or in the car, grab a cup of your favorite beverage and let's drop the puck on this week's episode.
Welcome to Goalie Science, the podcast that once used to have science, but now just has Derek Fujan and Jamie Phillips rehashing the golden days. Jamie, Derek, how are you guys doing tonight?
I don't see golden days. I think I'm living in the golden days now.
You're peaking right now. You've been on an upwards trajectory for 40 years.
I don't know, but anybody listening to this can definitely hear the contention in your voice when you say the science podcast that used to be about science.
Yeah, we used to have people who would listen to it, like respected listeners. And that's not to say the listeners now aren't respected.
So now the listeners are not respected. Way to go, Ben. We got to restart this whole episode. Well, if we're talking about listeners, I had a conversation. Again, I keep having great conversations with listeners, and it's great. But I had one with a goalie parent, and there was a thing because we were joking around about the pod, and I said one of the things. I said, "Do you listen past 6 minutes?" He goes, "I do. But on the very science-heavy episodes, they're kind of hard to listen to past 6 minutes." And I just laughed at that. And then I said, "I'll pass that along to Ben." But he did say, he's like, "Can you guys just tell Derek to fix his audio because it's so bad?"
Listen, I've heard that so much. I don't know what people want. Like, I've rocked it on Wi-Fi.
Get a microphone. No, it's not your connection, man. You just have to get a reasonable mic. AirPods.
I'm using AirPods today. I used a mic and it didn't change anything. I think it's just
If you don't pay $1 to buy the Dollarama mic, it's not gonna help.
they're AirPods. They cost $98 Canadian.
And these cost a lot, and they don't sound very good, and that's why I have to use this.
No. Well,
Anyway, let's add a great listener's email.
Ben keep us on track. He wants to keep it under 2 hours.
You know what? They've already stopped listening. It's already too science heavy.
To everyone, we're about 3 minutes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
To be fair, if we get advertisers, which we keep talking about, we never do, then we can afford to buy Derek a mic. So if you want to sponsor the pod, and it could be an individual sponsor the pod, for the cost of a microphone, you could sponsor an episode.
For the people who think that we argue about stats on this podcast, if anybody saw our group text message and the amount of stats that we argue about in that message, that itself could be a blog. But we're not bloggers because we have real jobs. Very true.
Well, I tried vlogging. I just keep forgetting. I do something important. I'm like, damn, this would have looked cool in the vlog, and then I forget. It's hard.
Like Jamie starts his day at 7 a.m. with his breakfast, and then he's filming himself go to bed because he forgot to record everything in between. All right.
Legit.
Today's episode, we got a really cool listener email. Reached out to us about their U10, Jimmy, U11?
10-year-old. So
yeah, so U11, I would guess. So U11 goaltender. We had a parent reach out and kind of explain to us how the path of their U10 goaltender has been through and kind of how they've been following the USA recommended ADM model or ADAM model that you've heard Jamie mention before, but never actually explained.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the email verbatim. So I
don't think you should do that.
Reading back was going to those. Well, I think it's important because it gives all the context, and you guys have the questions in advance because I sent it. So essentially, we have a 10-year-old goalie, and the father's trying to get as much information on candidates each episode. He started thinking about summer hockey and next season development wise. His son has been his 7th season as being a goalie. In some form has tried to follow the American development model, which is the USA Hockey's model. Here's his quick year-by-year breakdown. So year 1 plays about basically 50%. So he tried being a player, tried being a goalie. Year 2, mites in his town, about 25% as a goalie. Year 3, same thing. Around year 4, I started playing about 60% as a goalie. So he's playing more goalie than he is skater. Same thing for the 5th year. Year 6, he's now playing AA squirts, full-time goalie. Year 7, same thing, full-time goalie. But he does skate out on a town team. So he's still skating out, which we do like. But his questions were coming to is after last season, he had some AAA clubs in the area inquire about going to play for them. He chose to keep them on the AA team as it was a great group of parents, and the head coach played D1 as a goalie, so it was great for the mental aspect of the game. And then he says, as you probably noticed, his goalie training up to this point has been minimal. So for the first 7 years, he hasn't had any goalie training. His dilemma is as follows. It's 3 parts. First, money/time wise. Next season, he can either skate out for his town team or do goalie training. Number 2, at what point does it matter for prep school exposure if he continues to play AA when there's a ton of AAA teams in the area? He's currently in 5th grade and be entering middle school next year. And finally, if he does decide to go AAA, he wants to give his current coach as much time as possible to find a goalie for next season. So let's go to the first one. Based on the Spark Notes version there, money time-wise, next season, he can either choose to continue being as a player or start to do goalie training.
I like that you called that Spark Notes when you read 95% of the email.
Yeah, how would you tell? It's important information, and I wanted to keep it authentic because he took the time to send me a nice detailed interview.
You know,
Or email, excuse me.
I appreciate your consideration of the situation. All right, I'm going to give my 30-second
And
answer.
if I let you have the mic on your own, you would talk about the most obscure soccer stats for 4 hours, and then you would realize it's been 4 hours, and then you'd be like, okay, well, just a little bit longer, and then we keep going. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it from you.
A lot of slander to my face considering Bournemouth won today. No big deal. Sitting 3 points outside the top 4 on the table this year. Eat it, Jamie. No, my 30-second response to this is, again, like, kudos to the parent, like, super thoughtful kind of breakdown of what they've been doing. But also like a really good attempt at trying to follow the best recommended model that USA Hockey's put forward, right? Like trying to still do a little bit of player while playing goalie up through, 8, 9, 10. I think that's really admirable. I think it's really hard to try to balance that out. Like hockey's really busy. So I think that's really admirable. My simple answer is going into U12 next year, just play full-time goalie. Like that's probably you're good. You've done enough. You've done everything the science has asked you to do in terms of not committing to being a goalie too early and a wider net of development. You're done. Great job. Pat in the back. You've done it as best as we could all recommend. That's my thoughts.
The one thing that is missing from that email is he did not once state what his son wants to do. And that's my one question is, when trying to figure out what to do next year, I think the first question is to your athlete and what do they want to do? And like it's tough for me to give kind of an opinion when he hasn't said that. So taking that aside is my point. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're just piggybacking.
Yes. So somehow, and the thing is too, if Sir first, you would have said the same thing. I would say, if it's does his son want to be a goalie full time? If so, training. If not, continue to play out, and then the son will make a decision.
I'm glad that I gave you the pathway to ride my coattails, Jamie.
Hey, you're welcome. Someone's got to do it, and you know what? I read the email, so I'm gonna just edit this, and I'm the final editor, so I'm just gonna cut this out and make it sound good. All right, so let's get into. I think we're all on the same page with that one. And then if goaltending is the position that he decides that he really wants to go for, again, Ben's right. Training, he's getting to that age where kind of starting to make a decision. All right.
The other thing we quickly skipped over though was he did say the financial aspect in the email. Like that has to be taken into consideration. Like if he's going to go play AAA, the finances are definitely a factor. Travel might be a factor. So like these are things that he has to weigh, and these are information that we were not given. So like it's tough for us to get that email and kind of give an opinion. But I mean, like if your kid wants to play AAA, if he's really good at playing AAA, you can afford it, and the travel's not too much, then go play AAA. If after 1 year of AAA he's not having fun and he's not enjoying it, go back and play AA.
Based on this email, it seems like I don't want to put words in his mouth. But based on his email, it was either it just says the money and time wise. So it's more of I don't know. I'll make my assumption. I'm assuming that it's like he doesn't want to invest the money in goalie training if his kid doesn't want to be a goalie.
That, and also like he's playing player too. So like the equipment maintenance of both positions is not cheap.
Is there a rule that says you have to do goalie training if you play AAA?
No.
No, because I watched a local AAA tournament today, and the U11 AAA was won by Central Ontario Wolves, and I watched this kid play 2 games. Who was the goalie? They only had 1 goalie, and I can tell you, without a doubt, this goalie had no goalie training, and he was phenomenal.
Was it just kicking it or what?
Yeah, he was just making saves, man. Like when we talked about like a couple pods ago, where we say we teach technique over stopping a puck. This kid stopped the puck. Like he only got up on his blocker leg. He could not get up with his glove leg. Positional wise, kind of a mess. This kid just stopped the puck. There's no rule that said if you play AAA, you have to train, right? Like just let your kid dictate what he wants to do. Your kid's attitude will tell you exactly what to do. And if you know your kid, you'll be able to read your kid, and you'll know if he's having fun. You'll know if he wants more. You'll know if he needs less. And just be an in-tune parent.
Derek, this is like the most thoughtful commentary ever. I'm just super impressed right now.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say that. Next question, Jamie.
Like to do. What point does prep school exposure matter? He can play AA. There's a ton of AAA teams, so he's about to go next year. He's in middle school. I have my thoughts on this. I'm assuming that I'm just going to throw them out and then you say whatever Derek says. But Ben, I'm going to actually let you go first again as the only person here with prep school experience. What's your answer on this one?
I mean, I think you can really, there's a million paths to prep school. Like there's a boatload, right? There's like over 60 in New England. And that's just New England alone. And this person's from the Northeast. So that context might matter. So if you're from the Northeast United States, like prep school is just a much more present thing in that part of the world. So you're just aware of it more. There's so many paths to it. Like I know I played with and against people that came from just playing high school hockey, played AAA in the best centers. Like there's so many paths to get to prep school that at U11, U12, that's just not really a concern. And some prep schools do a really good job of actively recruiting and going out to places, and others you're always like just like an email away from starting a conversation with coaches. So I don't think that's a necessity. I don't think that matters. I think the bigger consideration stems from question 1, right? Which was like, does your kid want to play the highest level of hockey, and are they prepared for that commitment? And maybe people taking it too seriously or a lot differently in terms of seriousness. Like, are they ready for that? Because that is what's going to lead to if prep school ends up being the right choice. Prep school is also like I really, really, really appreciated my time playing prep school. It was really good hockey, again, 10 years ago now. Or a little more than 10 years ago now. It was fun. It's a good experience. There's a lot of really cool opportunities. My best friends are still from those years of my life. So like a lot of stuff beyond just hockey, but it's not a problem. There's a million paths to playing prep school. Like you don't need to worry about playing on the best AAA center at U12. You got time. You can go to high school. That's my thoughts.
Jamie, do you want to give your opinion before I give you the right opinion?
Yeah, you know what? I'll say the right opinion again. I'll edit it. I'm just say, your son is still right now. It's too young for that to be a concern in my mind. Prep schools, they will either recruit you or you self-recruit, meaning you maybe you get noticed at once you get older, but they're not going to start to look at you until you're around 7th or 8th grade. And then even that's for being a freshman. And even then, a lot of people will go to prep school in grade 10, 11, 12. So I really wouldn't worry about it, as well as, playing AAA in Massachusetts is an option. There's a lot of different things that are options. I wouldn't be preoccupied with that right now. Again, focus on for your son. If he wants to play goalie full time, play goalie. If his goal is if you're going to invest in this and he wants to go all in, then just focus on him making a AAA team, having fun, and being a successful year in his first year at AAA. And then like I've had a similar conversation actually probably 4 or 5 times last week where parents have been asking about how's my son doing, is as your son's playing through his first year at AAA, how does he compare to the other goalies he's playing against and the other goalies you see at tournaments in his age group? Because now he's stepped up. So theoretically, the goalies he's playing against should be better. Does he compare? All those things. And if he's comparing and doing the right thing and doing the goalie training and putting in the time and effort, those will fall into place. And then send us an email when he's about 15, 16, and we'll tell you if it's time to look at prep school.
The one thing you're missing is there's prep schools at like U13 and U12 now.
Yeah, well,
So like I get middle school.
Outside of academies, I did not know that.
Yeah, but there is. But I mean, like, I think the number one question, if you're thinking about prep school, and I assume there is options that are local, but I would say the majority of the options are not local, is your child ready to move away? Like, is your child mature enough that you can send them to billet or stay like in a residence and live without you? And that to me is like, as a parent on the parent side, answering this is like, that's cuckoo. Like there's no way that I think at U13, so the kids would be 12, that I'd be letting my kid go to a boarding school. Theoretically, it's a boarding school. Like, just not happening. So that kid's staying under my roof as long as possible so I can keep my thumb on him, because that's just too young for me. And especially when there's good AAA options. And like, I don't know where these people are located, but I assume from this email that he's not thinking of 5 years down the line. I think he's thinking like U13 possibilities of boarding school.
Yeah, and there's a couple local like like they're called like pre-boarding, I think is what they called back then, or like prep to the prep. There was a couple that were near the school that I went to. And a couple of the people that I played with or even just went to school with went to some of those. They said they were fine. Again, this is like a decade ago now, but they said that those experiences were part of it. I think, like you said, Derek, it really comes down to the type of family environment that you have and your relationship as a family and your relationship with your kids, right? Like, and the maturity of the kids, right? Like, I know that one of the people that I know that went to one of those, I think grade 7 or grade 8, came from a military family. And so like there was, they would that person that I ended up playing with, like they were like very mature, like they were very responsible. That was like something that they'd been raised with as being a military family. So they were seemingly ready for that experience. They also were, boarding an hour away from their parents. So they weren't like it was, a million miles away. I think that's one part of the Northeast in the US for all our non-Northeast people is like there's a prep school like every 23 minutes. Like you can't drive through a small town in New England without running into a small school that's worth $1 billion that you didn't know existed there. It's kind of an interesting setup that is uniquely American. So, yeah, I think it's a lot to consider there. But just, yeah, U13, U14.
I wouldn't,
Play AAA.
yeah, I wouldn't stress that. Also, he's from Massachusetts. I would have included that in my original reading if I was allowed to read the whole thing, but apparently Ben said no. And again, context is important. So, sorry.
You already mentioned it 10 minutes ago. The recent is from you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have had to. Anyways, last one. If we decide to go AAA, I want to give his current coach as much time as possible to find a goalie for next season.
I respect.
Yeah, so thoughtful.
I respect that, but I also want to say that the coaches will also not respect you. So you have to make sure that you look out what's best for your son, because those coaches will always look out what's best for their team, and it is a balancing act.
It's also just like you can also, again, I think this is a unique situation. The email does say that this goalie is the only goalie on their team currently. So the team literally doesn't have another goalie. And that's really thoughtful of the parent to consider. Like, I think that's genuinely really kind. But yeah, like Derek said, maybe like a heads up, like, hey, we want to try and play AAA. There's no guarantee you make that AAA team next year. You might be playing AA for a number of reasons. That's beyond your own control. So
Can I say something from like a head coaching kind of opinion on that one?
Sure.
So if I'm coaching a team, let's say it's a AA team, and if I believe that my goalie is so good that he's going to go and play AAA, then I think that coach has already got that in the back of his mind that he's going to lose the kid.
Yeah, probably. The conversation doesn't hurt. Like, it's just a conversation.
It's nice that he's going to tell you, but I think the coach should also probably have a pretty good idea, unless like I don't know, this kid could be next coming of Jake Ottinger. I don't know, but maybe it's a stretch that this kid could go play AAA. We don't know. So I mean, the coach, if this kid is as good as this email of like letting us know that he is, then I would assume that this coach is like, man, I'm going to lose this kid, because I can look at like in November, I have a pretty good idea of which kids that I'm training are like, okay, this kid's moving up a level, this kid's going down a level. Like it's not set in stone, but I mean, pretty good idea.
It does talk. It happens so fast though. Like the whole like, I agree. Like, you have a pretty good idea of like who, but it's not because it's not just by November. It's like it's the progress from last year's tryouts to November. That's the actual timeline, right? Like what happened over summer, what happened in the first half of the season. We're able to make that decision, which sucks because in theory tryouts are still like 5 months away. Like so much could in theory change, even though we know we've talked about this with open borders and girls hockey in Ontario. But you think development matters? Too bad. It's how you do 9 months in advance now that matters.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the relationship you have with your coach? Like, if you're a good relationship with your coach, it's buddy, like you're confident and you've talked about going AAA in the future, or you got his thoughts on things. If that's a real lot different than one if you don't talk to the coach, and sometimes coaches are jerks, and sometimes they're I know not, it's the only goalie on the team, so it's hard to bench him. But you know that there are other things that sometimes there is retaliation when there shouldn't be, especially in young kid hockey. So what is their relationship with your coach? That's going to help dictate it. And then, like Derek said, if your kid has been a stud this whole time and his AAA teams are all over him, it should be sort of expected that he is going to move up if that's what he wants. So it shouldn't be a surprise. But again, kind of test the waters and see, like, again, I'm gonna say it one more time. What's the relationship like with your coach?
I also think that you absolutely can bench your only goalie. We've already talked about this podcast. You could bring up like 7-year-old and never play them again so that they quit the sport. You always have that power.
And I do like how the PM, the postscript in his email, I do know what that means. Anyway, it said, after listening to the podcast with Joseph Woll, he's the unluckiest goalie in the NHL. My Facebook feed was a clip of the goal that bounced off backwards over the net, butt end of the stick, and was tapped in, which I did see the other night, and I did laugh. I knew that. I don't know why our group chat didn't say anything about that. It just expected at this point.
So I had a good conversation with another listener about this. Actually, I had a couple DMs being like, I can't stop seeing it now that you guys mentioned, like, it's everywhere. And this is a little teaser, but over the holiday break, I have already started compiling my Joseph Woll "How Did That Puck Go In" montage. So we'll be releasing that as a holiday special of goalie signs. I'm sure Jamie will add some flourishes to it, but I've already started curating the playlist of how does this keep happening? This can't be real life. The Joseph Woll.
It's just us watching Joseph Woll's like folks on lucky goals.
It's honestly there's no way to track this. Like I don't feasibly think any of the data collection companies have this. They might though. They might have a category that they just tag as like question mark or weird or other. It's all the time. Like that guy cannot catch a break around the net.
I'm assuming those are, and making a serious, I'm assuming when those are tagged, they're probably just tagged as like the worst possible goal. Like whatever their worst ranking would be, like that's what you give it, right?
It's like not even like I have a couple tags under my things that are called others. Like I'll have like, for example, like I track the type of shot that happens in the game: wrist shot, snap shot, slap shot, backhand tip, right? Like it is in the NHL tracks those for their data, and they have a bunch of categories as well. I don't know. I'm assuming the private companies probably have other under a couple other subsets of like variables that you collect. So we'll save the science here, but long story short, I have a couple others on mine that dramatically like reduce the likelihood that that play would result in a goal in my model. So like I saw something the other night with that exact goal where like based on where it actually went in, it was given like 0.3 of an expected goal, which is really high. Like 30% of a goal is like a really, really high marker for an expected goal. It's a really good chance. But like that play is not worth, 0.3 of a goal. Like that play is ridiculous. never going to happen again. So like my model would have penalized that play to like down to be 0.1 instead of 0.3. 0.1's still probably really high for like the true probability of that chance. It's a little bit better. Anyways, long story short, yada, yada, yada. You can penalize it based on how you train your model. Anyways, subject change. Jamie, edit this so it's smoother. One thing that we mentioned before show, and have we been mean to coaches lately? We've been mean to coaches lately. Maybe
We're always mean to coaches.
yeah.
But should we be? Like, that's like a legitimate question. Yeah, we're mean to coaches, but
Yeah, but coaches are also coaches are also mean to all of our goalies. So they've been mean to us our whole lives. This is just our chance to get back to them. And we had
like both. I am goalie coach. I've been a head coach for 7 years plus. I've had people be mean to me. I've learned it. That's part of the job. We sign up for it.
Yeah. Well, talking to something we all agreed, kind of talking to some coaches, some parents, we all had a couple things that we thought would be good little mini topics, especially having all three of us on. And so the first one that I wanted to talk about is something that I want this to almost be not critical, but like educational in the concept, which is if you are a goalie or a parent or a coach of a goalie, if a screen goal goes in, a lot of the time, it's the goalie's fault for being screened, at least to some degree. There are exceptions to this before I get yelled at. Everyone has seen those goals that go through like 9 people, and there's no chance that you would have ever seen that puck. That's fine. That is a separate conversation. I'm talking about like your D is battling with one forward, and that is the entire screen, an engaged battle in front of you, and the puck goes in because you don't see it at all. I'd like to talk about that because I've heard lots of goalies and coaches and parents, and they all have different thoughts on this, but I'd like to open that door up. Like we'll call it the single layer screen, even if it's 2 people engaged, but it's like one physical layer of screening. What are your thoughts?
Say what you said in the pre-stat. You said, you made this way nicer. You said, but parents come to you and they go say what?
They say, well, they couldn't do anything about it. They were screened.
Yeah.
And then I say, I disagree. They could do so about it.
Yes, absolutely. My answer is when I hear a goalie says that to me, so not even at the parents, because I guess like not every parent's ever been a goalie and it's hard, blah, blah, blah. But if the goalie comes up to me and goes, I couldn't see it, to me, that's an unacceptable answer. The correct answer, and now every goalie is just going to say it as even though they're lying, is I battled for that one and I just could not see the release. And I go, all right, that happens. Or is there anything you could have adjusted? Could you cheated on your angle? Could you blah, blah, blah? And then they had to think about it and be like, I don't know if it was worth it. We have that discussion. But it's one thing to be like, I couldn't see it, or I battled so hard for that and I could not see that release. I get it. That happens. But we all know the goalies where the classic puck goes in, gloves come up, guy gets mad at this goalie. That drives me so mad. So mad. But it happens all the time. And you like I was saying, if every single person on the ice is in front of you, it's hard to see the puck. When there's one person that's stationary in front, especially in like a power play situation, we're not even going to talk about flash screens, which just happen, but we're talking about one player in front. It is 100% your responsibility to find that puck. And I tell them all my goalies, you need to see the release of it. That release is going to give you enough information to make the save, albeit unless it gets tipped, but like enough information to make that save. And that means looking over or looking under, adjusting yourself, moving the player out of the way, yelling at your defenseman to come box out or can't see or giving them cues. So like Ben's saying, it is an unacceptable answer. But this also, before I let Boosh take over, and this also goes into another thing where a lot of goalies I find that they're hyper fixated on whether they think they need to I get the answer away. They need to be able to deal with the screen one way. They either have to look over or they have to look under. And I've gotten goalies where like, well, I'm tall, I have to look over. What happens if the guy in front of you is taller? Or I don't like looking around it. I don't care what you like. I want you to make the save. And I don't know if that's I don't know if that's something that's being taught. Like, it's like, hey, like when dealing with screens, you must look over because this, or dealing with screens, you have to look under because this. But it's one of those ones where it's whatever it takes to see the puck, you have to do it.
Have we ever heard a goalie say like a lateral pass one time or get scored on? Have we ever heard one of our goalies say, I couldn't make that save because I'm just not a good enough skater? You haven't.
I've had one older junior goalie who looked at me a few years ago, was just like, I'm just not going to get to that one. I'll be honest. It's playing junior C, 21-year-old playing junior C. That is a self-aware person.
That's a self-aware goalie. But like, listen, your ability to play with traffic is a skill. And the goalies that say, I didn't see it, are the goalies that aren't good playing with traffic. Because the guys that are good with playing with traffic, number one, they don't use that as an excuse. And number two, they find a way to see it. It is a skill, and it is a massive separator between goalies at the highest level. And not even the highest level. I'm talking about like the highest.
I wouldn't even say the highest level. It's, yeah.
Back that up. Like at every level, it's a separator between, I meant like the highest guys in that level and then the next guys. Because it's a skill. And I mean, like, I think one of my biggest strengths is making guys comfortable with traffic because I started so early and I teach them the strategies on how to deal with traffic and kind of understanding that stuff. And it's something I think I'm very, very good at coaching. But it is a massive skill. And anybody who thinks it's not a skill to be comfortable with traffic hasn't gone and scouted goalies at U16 for the OHL or scouted or tried to recruit goalies to junior teams, because that is like one of the biggest separators. Goalies that are comfortable with traffic.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's actually it's again a complete agree. I have a few things here. I have one comment, and then I think a question is gonna kind of push us. But I was I do pre-scouts for our university team, and there's a couple goalies and a couple teams we've pre-scouted this year where my notes are like, the note literally says Goalie quits entirely at single layer screen. And there's goalies like that at every level where there is a little bit of traffic and it's like the game ends. Like they back up to their goal line and they butterfly. And I know you guys are nodding along because you guys have both seen this, but it is crazy when you watch that and you see it happen over and over again with goalies. You see it a lot when, like you said, when you're scouting or recruiting, you watch a goalie 5 or 6 games, and every single time any traffic assembles, get wide to the goal line, butterfly. And you can it's a script, right? It's really concerning.
That's my favorite pre-scout. I have that too. I just say, does not try in traffic.
Yeah, it does not try in traffic. It's literally, literally a pre-scout. Like,
and that's at the USHL level. So this is and these are good goalies that are committed to Division I universities. And there is one NHL goalie that I know that comes to mind. I'm not going to say his name because he's a good friend. He's not very good at traffic, and he does the hands up every time he gets scored on. I just see it, and I'm like, oh, just stop that. Just stop. Don't do that.
As like negative as we use it in a pre-scout, like I get equally or more excited leaving a game when a goalie is comfortable and like very good with traffic. And that's the first thing I leave. I'm like, man, I'm so comfortable with traffic. Like I love guys that can battle and fight for sight lines, because this is what I tell all my goalies is today is the easiest it'll ever be for you to play with traffic. No matter what age you are, no matter what level you are, today is as easy as it'll ever be for you. Because tomorrow they either get bigger, they get better, or they're more willing to go there. So you go from minor hockey to junior. The guys are bigger, they're better at tipping pucks. They have a better understanding of what eliminating your eyes is. And that's the biggest thing is if traffic didn't work, teams wouldn't do it. There's so much traffic because it works. Eliminating your eyes has an effect on goal output. And I don't know if that supports that, Ben.
No, I have numbers for you. I came with numbers.
Oh, but you're telling me that you can't see it. You're not gonna be able to stop it. Apparently, classic. That's like classic Don Sherry Rock'em Sock'em. If he's gonna see it, he's gonna stop it.
No, but this is where, like, again, this is also, and everyone's gonna hate this, but this is the reality of another reason why goalies are on average bigger now. because they take up more space when they can't see the puck, which is a huge part of the game. So
All goalies can't play. Benson here first.
Dude, the common sense takes over, right? Like bigger,
Absolutely not.
Cornet, like,
I don't know if you've seen Dustin Wolf play, but my U13 is small and so is Dustin Wolf. Therefore, he's going to make the NHL.
yeah, well, anyways, moving on to a productive conversation.
I do want to say one thing though. I took this from Bouge where we added in a lot more. Basically, with all my goalies, that once they get to like U14 is usually when they start. You can start to tell like who's strong, who's good. What you don't have to work on like basic things. They have that requisite skill level. I very rarely do straight shots. And actually, it's when I got to Muskegon, the first like day we started doing things, they have those like tripod devices.
The tripods are nice.
Yeah, they're expensive, but they're good. And so we started using them, and we put out two. And the guys asked, I wanted them to ask me, and they did. They're like, how come? It's like, how come we do everything we do is screened? I just told them, I was like, because you guys are good. Like you face straight shots all day. Like that's what you do in practice. And you guys are good on straight shots. I need to make you better at traffic because guys like change the angle, like we talked about last week, change the angle, shoot through legs. Everything they do is shooting through traffic. So my job here is to expose you to those situations that you're going to see in games that are difficult to stop. And I'm going to jinx it now, but so far through traffic, off the rush and in zone, my goalies have been pretty good, and their battle through traffic has been very good. So I'm happy with the way that's going, and their buy-in in terms of just understanding whenever we do drills, like we're almost definitely going to have traffic. And even sometimes we do post plays through traffic, RVH stuff through traffic, because it happens in the game. So we're exposed in there. Fortunate that we have those screen things, because I feel bad sometimes putting shooters there and just ripping pucks at them, but that's the way it goes. I do feel bad. They come up to goalie skate, man. It's hard to get guys to come up for goalie skate. And I don't want to have them eat pucks with their face.
but doing screens, like even if you have a screen, like a screen stand or like a curtain, whatever these guys use, like anything, like even if you use it for an 8 or 9, 11-year-old, if you just use it as you start the puck on the blocker side, you shoot across the screen to the glove side and just have them try and catch it. Like we're training their brains to map that path. We're training the exposure of watching it and losing it. And it just makes them track straight shots that they can see better. Like even if you're not using it as a traffic or a flash screen or a tip, like just using it as straight tracking is helping map that path and that GPS in their brain so that they can track pucks better. And I think like I have a lot of guys coming to me from other goalie coaches that struggle with their hands, like very, very much. I get a lot of goalies that come to me and they say, watching your goalies, all your goalies have really good hands. And that's one of the things that I do that I feel really help my goalies have fast hands, is that I do a lot of shooting across screen, even in warm up. Like we're just going to do 10. I'm going to start the puck on the blocker side. I'm going to shoot across the screen. I don't want you to slide into it. I don't want you to make a save with your body. I want you to try and catch it wherever it goes. And that I have young goalies that have very good glove and they catch a lot of pucks. I think that's something that even when we're not at the junior level where traffic is very prominent, but it helps those goalies get comfortable as they go along.
I agree with that. I think the one thing you said there too, you said it's just simple. So for me, when I introduce screens as like we're doing screens and it's the focus of today and that is going to carry over, we do start simple. We start with the pick. We predict, as you call it, projecting, like looking on the glove side, making the save on the blocker side. I like that as a warp too, because this is something we haven't said this word in a long time. We used to all the time. Eye fodder. It really helps prevent the goalie's ability and debut dens. Like that's not scientific. It prevents the goalie's ability to start to deviate their vision from the puck. They say, I find that they helps them keep, they say, a little bit more fixated on that puck when there's traffic, because there's that intention to it. There's that variable versus they're just getting out from the post, step out, set, shot, post, step out, dealing with traffic, maybe moving it the tiniest bit. Now they're focused. The tracking is improved and it carries over and hopefully into a good session.
Well, thank you for saying fixation, because that is actually a vision term that is quantifiable. So thank you for Demi. One for TM. Hey, not bad.
We have read all the quiet eye books out there.
And you shouldn't, because the quiet eye literature is based on inadequate technology from 30 years ago.
And this is why people only listen to 6 minutes when you're
Hey, I'm sorry that the frame rate of the original quiet eye studies leaves more investigation necessary, and why the results have been tough to replicate. Anyways, point being here is that, yeah, screens are really hard. The puck goes in a lot when it's a true screen. Like a true screen, like goalie does not see it, goalie drops straight down. Puck goes in like a lot higher rate than most other types of chances in a game. That's why, like Derek said, as the levels get higher and better, more traffic happens, because people get paid lots of money to score goals and be on the ice when the puck goes in, and they're willing to do it. And so, like, again, everyone said really nicely today, it's a skill. The same way you practice skating, the same way you practice puck tracking, is finding sight lines through screens. And I'm not like a big promoter of all the social media accounts out there, but every time I see like a KHL clip of a goalie who was in like the full spritz, basically somehow still on their feet, but like their legs are so wide, fighting through traffic through the legs of players, that's inspiring to me. I don't recommend that at all, but like that's someone who's prepared to do anything to try to battle through it to find the like line of the puck, right? Like that's not a
I know what you're
recommendation.
referencing, and obviously lower and wider is better for traffic. Ben said it here first. Get your feet locked out, get super deep.
There's lots of like actual quality strategies for traffic. Like I don't want to go into all of them because everybody's going to tune out, and we're not going to away our secrets for free. But I mean, it is a skill, and it is something that you have to practice. And the problem is when goalie coaches or goalies are taught, or goalies have the idea that they have to prioritize angle over seeing the puck, then the question that I always ask is the same. And I've said it on this podcast before, is what if they don't shoot? So you have to prioritize seeing the puck over being perfectly on angle.
Yeah. I've one more thing on this topic before we kind of wrap up here, which is, I don't know where this comes from. I do know where this comes from. It's like a coaching thing, but I think it's like a really old, I think it's like an artifact that hasn't gone away. Is I have lots of goalies who will, and parents, and to some degree coaches, but who will say like, oh, my defender didn't move the person out of the way for the screen. Like I'm telling them to move the person and they're not moving them. And newsflash, they're never going to move them. Like that's,
And they shouldn't.
like, yeah, they should not also just engage randomly trying to push someone out of the way. Like I don't know how to tell anyone this, but that is not actually what ever happens. You're never going to have a defender move the screen out of the way. Sorry. You will sometimes. Most of the time, that will not happen. That is not something you should be counting on if you are a goalie communicating that to your players. If you're saying, move him, I can't see, stop doing that.
I don't think that is something that is taught anymore.
I see it all the time. All the time.
You see it or you hear it?
I hear it from the goalie saying, my defenders are not moving my players.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just something that people hear and they think is something that should happen. Like, I don't know any coaches in the new game, like modern hockey, that are trying to have net front battles with their D and their forward. Like, you're just making the double screen. Like, everybody's fronting guys now.
So I usually yell front them. Yeah. I used to yell move him when there was a battle going on. And I think that wasn't anything other than it just helped keep me dialed into the game. And I talked a lot to my D. But one thing that is going to have some people's heads explode is when I got to Cincinnati, the PK structure was the net front guy was 100% my responsibility. They were not putting a defenseman to do anything about the net front responsibility. And I was just a net front guy. And I was like, I like that. And the coach just said, he's like, that is your guy. It's your job to see the puck. We're going to have the other 4 guys to help eliminate pass lanes. If they shoot, which is what we want them to, you are going to look around and make that save. And I said, I like this. Okay. And our power play was pretty good. And we didn't give up a whole lot of seam passes because our other guys were doing their job. So that's, like, that was the first time I'd ever heard that. So that was what, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know if that catches on, but I think that just shows that in today's modern game, like, most coaches just understand that, yeah, the goalies that's your responsibility. Just like we talk about, hey, player picks up the puck on the goal line and has a low attack, like, it's your job to stop it. The defenseman most likely is going to prevent him from cutting to the middle to the best of their ability, prevent a backdoor pass to the best of their ability. Like, there are some things where it's just our job to make the save. And some people are going to get mad, but that's the truth.
Yeah, number 1 rule in the penalty kill as a defenseman, you don't tie up. Like, if you're a defenseman listening to our defenseman podcast right now, then you should know that you do not tie up on the penalty kill, or you do not play penalty kill anymore.
Yeah. Anyways, moral of the story here is, again, battling through screens is a skill. And if it's something that you find yourself struggling with as a goalie, or you're a parent or you're a coach listening, and your goalie kid is listening, and they're struggling with screens, talk to the goalie coach. If they're going to goalie training, say, my kid's getting torched through screens right now. Can you work on them? Can you work on some strategies with them? Because that is, again, I think we talk a lot about, or at least I talk a lot about, and I know you guys put up with the fact that a lot of stuff in goalie training doesn't mimic what actually happens in a game. But the skill of finding pucks through a screen of some kind and be able to, like you said, Derek and Jamie, project or track a puck across a screen where you lose the sight of the puck is a skill that is super trainable in goalie training. It's something that is worth spending time on, because you actually can develop a skill that will translate, right? You can't read a triple backdoor pass in goalie training because there's no 5-on-3s at your small rink, but you can work on tracking pucks across a screen device. And I think that's really valuable. I think that skill translates pretty nicely. It just makes sense that it would.
A screen stand is a good investment too. Like, we talk about sometimes things, different apparatuses, and last we had our parting shots of different things. Yeah, if you're a goalie coach listening, a screen stand is a good investment. Some of them are expensive. Like, obviously those tripod ones are like $600 before freight shipping. But if you know someone who is a welder, or some friends, or maybe you can weld, or if you want to even, like, you can jerry rig something.
Yeah.
But a screen stand is an investment. Obviously, metal is usually better because it lasts longer, but spend the $150 or whatever it is to get something made up. Use that, because it goes a long way in helping your goalies battle through traffic, and you don't always have shooters available. It's great for when it's just you and the goalie, because it adds in another variable of difficulty, and it will enhance your goalie training immensely by having a screen stand.
I've never used those tripod ones. When I see them online, like, to me, I have a hard time believing that they're really good.
They're fine.
Their upside,
Are they tall? Are they tall enough to be like?
Yeah.
they're about
Tall enough.
4.5 feet to 5 feet tall. You can get an add-on as like a head foam thing. I usually, in Muskegon, we have these, like, they use big puck bags, so I just put the bag on top. But if that screen's high enough out,
Yeah. It's
that
like a good
the relative height difference. The upside that I really like with those is it allows the players to shoot through the leg of the defenseman, and I am a big believer in involving your players in terms of high quality skill development for them as much as possible. So forcing your players to shoot through screens, because no one likes to go to a goalie skate and be told where to shoot. But if you can enhance it, make it fun for your shooters, also stopping pucks off the rush shot through defenseman's legs. Most goalies are going to be like, I don't want that shot. I just push around him and drive the net hard. Like, that's what I want. So if I can give them difficult shots as much as possible, yes, I do that.
I will say this. I don't know if you had this, Jamie. I found those triangle ones, just like you hit them with a puck and they just fall over something.
Oh no, ours are pretty good. Like the wide bases, I've actually never had one.
ones too.
I've never had one fall over. I can't remember the company that makes it. They don't sponsor us, so they're not giving a shout out. But they're very good. They're very durable. I know Muskegon's had theirs for like maybe 10 years. Like pretty solid.
They're fine.
You don't
There's a-
need it. There's different options, yeah.
Yeah, again, you can make something out of PVC pipe and a jersey that takes up a lot of sight lines and still lets pucks go through. You might just blow it up with a slap shot.
For $30 online, you can get a metal full body mannequin, a Victorian style mannequin. So it goes even lower, but which is actually a little bit more like I can see if Mike is trying to share my screen. So I don't know if this should work on the recording. So if you're watching on YouTube,
This is a
you can
bad
see it.
guess now.
But you can get this one. This one's obviously more expensive, but you can get a mannequin. Throw a jersey over that. You're fine.
For those listening, Jamie has pulled up Coat Rex and Mannequin Rex.
That does not fall over if you hit it.
Yeah, that thing's gonna explode 2 seconds in.
Yeah, of course, if it falls over, if you hit it, but like, if you want a cheap option, that's better than nothing. Yeah, or you get something welded up, like the one that we have here, that Dave made. It's pretty good.
You know what this was really like. I was thinking about this earlier, but I think a future podcast would be perfect. Would be like training tools or like the gimmick things that we think work and talking about those, like screen stands, white pucks, color pucks, Sensorina.
It's funnel with those things. It's a lot of potential, with all the potential sponsors that we could have. We already know
That's
best
a
ones.
perfect opportunity. If you want us to not crap on your products, then give us money.
It will, like I said, I will sell my soul. It just has to be for the right price. Just tell me, write a check, write a blank check, and I'll tell you how good it is.
I will not sell my soul. I will retire from the podcast. If you want a little bit of a teaser on some of those and you've made it to this part of the podcast of this episode, go back and listen to our episode with Rob Gray, Dr. Rob Gray, who is a skill acquisition specialist and researcher for a long time now. And we talked a little bit about VR and some of the other training options that you might consider. That episode's really great. And about
I know what you're going to say scientifically about some of these things, but there is other practical uses for some of the things that the science doesn't support for the intended use. Let me put it away.
Yeah, actually, I completely disagree. I think we're going to end up on the exact same page. I've said this for years. This, again, shout out to people who are at minute 56 of the episode tonight. I said for years, Booch, that you have been right in line with all of the science the whole time without reading it. And that's more impressive than anything.
Well, I think they just stole my ideas and then made it scientific.
I'm not sure how that works. Jamie, normally you say this. Parting shots? Question mark.
Oh, good. Party shots. Does anyone have a party shot theme for us? I should have came prepared. I didn't. A little too many Christmas cookies at the holiday party today.
Well, parting shot is got his wish, and Sam Montembeau was named to Team Canada.
As predicted here on the GOALIE Science podcast,
He was pretty lights out like the last 3 weeks. Like he made a good push at the end, like really kind of cemented his spot.
if people maybe I'll dig this one up from the archives. I have an article I read a few summers ago about how Sam Montembeau was like a really good example of a goalie who has been in just like an atrocious goaltending environment for a long time in Montreal. It's not the
In the league.
Yeah, well, I'm not arguing that, but I think if I remember correctly, the 2022-2023 season, he had like the most high danger chances against per game by like over 1.5 per game. Like it was like a chart I had made, and he was so far away from everyone else on that chart that poor Sammy Montembeau. Get that guy out of there.
Okay, my parting shot, because I'm opening up the new clinic, Ghost Rehab. A lot of people have asked me, what can you do? But the number of young goalies, I want to say young goalies, the number of teenage and older goalies that do not have any sort of set post-game or post-skate routine in terms of whether that's stretching, rolling, cool down, anything, is way too high. And as a young goalie, or one, you've got that that level of 14 and up, I would say, especially if you're playing AAA or your goal is to play at the highest level possible, you need to have something. And we've talked about different stretching, even if it's just do 20 minutes of static stretching, which is just stretching your muscles. That's better than just getting off the ice after playing a game, quick shower, running, sitting in a car for a 4-hour car ride home, and then complaining to me the next day that your hips hurt. Because my answer is going to be, well, what did you do? Did you do anything about it? And if you say no, I'm not going to be happy. I'm not talking about anyone in particular.
With the person's name. Spit it out or no? Listening.
Quick shout out. So first off, U11 AAA Hamilton Steel goalie Marcello Macaluso. 2 shutouts in 3 games this weekend. So played 3 games in the Hamilton Steel tournament and gave up 1 goal total, including a shutout in the semifinal. So shout out to Marcello Macaluso, one of my 2014 goalies. Shout out to Weston. My son got his first AAA shutout last night. Wow. And little story about this game is this is not even a Weston story. It is, I don't know his first name, but we played the Cambridge Hawks, the U10 AAA. And the goalie's last name was Snowden. So if he's listening, hit me up because I want to train your kid. I'm going to say it. He's dynamite.
Edward Snowden?
Yeah, no. But so battle of the basement. It is what it is. 0-0 going into the third period. And we had to be 34 to 36 shots on this kid through 2 periods. And outstanding, like scoring chance after scoring chance. We were all over him. 0-0 going into the third period. I'm thinking like, my kid is going to give up a derby goal here. We're going to lose 1-0. This kid is going to make 57 saves. And we're going to lose this game. And all I'm going to hear about is how amazing this kid was. But this kid played out of his mind. We ended up scoring in the third period. We got 5 on him. But not for a lack of, this kid was phenomenal. So Cambridge Hawks, U10 AAA goalie. Don't know his first name, his last name on the back of his shirt said Snowden. Very, very impressive game against the Hamilton Steel on December 7th. So shout out to him.
That is really nice. No, I got nothing. Honestly, you guys covered everything pretty well today. Thank you everyone for including science in our episode today. My final parting shot will be, if anyone is really curious and looking for more information, always go check out Boojin Goaltending and Jamie Phillips on Instagram. It's Jamie Phillips at 31. Both Derek and Jamie put out some really great content.
30. Wow, this whole time? It's literally always been 30 years probably.
That's why you have no
dog
followers.
like that, right?
That's why you have no followers. It's my fault. But go check out their educational content. They're going to do a great job. Look out this week for Derek. He will be posting something about why teams should use time to goal on the power play instead of power play percentage. He's been working really hard on understanding that concept. He's using all his brain cells to try and figure out why that's better. As always, we appreciate every
The depth of your argument, and I mean the 2 people that will listen to the end of this he's one of them. The depth of your argument is that's it. Albo agreed with you. That was the.
I honestly didn't read it, but now that you said that Albo agreed with you, that's over.
I was vindicated.
You guys, hey, at least one of the 3 people here understand math, and that's important for all of us. Everyone listening, we appreciate you all the time. Thank you so much for checking us out, and we'll see you next time.